Hi, this is Ravi, and today I'm going to share you one of my uh, best chess game, which is the Sicilian Dragon game. Now, the reason for sharing this game is that if you are familiar with one of the most attacking players in the history of chess, so his name is Nezhmetdinov, and the feature of this game is such that in the very early, White sacrifices his queen for two pieces for a very a fast attack for a continuous attack. So if you see this game, you will find it very similar with Nezhmetdinov, and I played this game in light chess, so you can see the this lightchess.org, and you can see the game ID also. So it's definitely a worthy opponent with whom I played. And this game features like the sacrifice of the queen for two minor pieces. So let's go ahead and see how this game goes. So there is a lot of learning also, and I will tell you what are the things to see here. So it starts with e4, c5, Sicilian, knight f3, knight c6, then d4, open Sicilian, c takes d4, knight takes d4, knight, then it is g6. It is the beginning of Sicilian Accelerated Dragon, knight c3, bishop g7, bishop e3. These are very standard moves. Knight f6, f3, f3 stops the knight to come to knight to g4. So the knight comes to, so to prevent this knight g4, sorry, then white plays the f3 move. Okay, then 0-0, black castles, then bishop c4, e6. Now this move doesn't is not the standard move for the dragon, like the Sicilian Accelerated Dragon Variation. Like people generally play here the d5 move, but white black plays e6 like because he wants to play d5 and he wants to neutralize in the center. Queen d2 to make the white king have a long castle. Okay, now d5, e takes d5, e takes d5, bishop to b3, knight takes d4. Now queen takes d4, rook e8, and castle on the queen side. And here black plays knight e4, thinking that he would be firing the bishop from the long diagonal, bishop g7. So this bishop g7 for like Sicilian, I will say this is the most important piece when you're playing the dragon variation. Either it can be accelerated dragon or it can be also like the normal Sicilian dragon. If this bishop is exchanged for black, then the attack comes to a standstill. So what happens here? The next move, as you can understand, is queen takes g7, as you can see on the notation. I played this move, queen takes g7. Why? Because I wanted to like attack very fast. If you see the pieces of black, they're always on the back rank. None of the pieces are developed. Only this bishop d7 and this knight. So what does white does is that white goes for a very continuous attack. And this idea of sacrificing the queen for two pieces, I had seen this game of Nezhmetdinov where he sacrifices his queen very, in a very similar fashion, and he goes for a continuous attack. So queen takes g7, king takes g7, and f takes e4. Now, what is black has to do? The thing is that when I sacrifice this queen, I had to see this position. What is the objective of black? So black has heavy pieces on his back ranks, but black doesn't have any idea. And if you see the pieces of white, this bishop on b3, this knight, and this bishop on e3, and this rook in the center on d1, they are all occupying the central pieces. So definitely it is a very like the objective of white is very clear, to attack the king side, the lonely king on g7. So black gives bishop g4, he attacks the rook, and I give bishop to d4 check. So bishop d4 check. Now the king has to respond, king to g8, and I gave rook d to f1. Now I know this bishop is on b3, and this pawn, if it goes from the d5, it attacks the f7 square. The f7 is always a very soft spot for this bishop to attack. Now this bishop on this diagonal, bishop b3 and f7 diagonal, it is the best square for this bishop. The queen g4. The queen g4, it comes with a tempo, and the king goes to a more safer position. King to b1. After this, rook to e7. Why rook to e7? Because this pawn cannot be saved. This d5 pawn cannot be saved. So black tries to prevent the attack on the f7 square with the help of rook. Knight takes d5. Attack on the rook is coming. The rook doesn't have too many of the best squares to go. The rook a e8, and I gave knight f6 check. Now after giving the knight f6 check, the king comes to g7. I gave knight takes e8, and again king comes to h6. I gave h4. Why h4? Because I want to secure the g5 square. The queen moves to d2, and now bishop to g7 check. King to h5, and knight to f6 is checkmate. So you see here how easily this could be done, how easily this attack comes. Thank you.